This week's tip is about wandering, trying to keep them in the house. Hi, it's me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers with love, laughter, and lessons learned. I can remember one day a caregiver coming into my support group and saying, "Mom got out again." So Joel and I, Officer Joel Quattlebaum from the Largo Police Department, are going to talk about this a little further. So what had happened is the woman said she was doing some work in her house. She lives with her mom, and she was in her office, and the neighbors came and said, "Your mom's down the street." She didn't even know her mom was down the street. Okay, depends on how aggressive they are in the beginning. Sometimes it's not too often. So what we did is we put some bells on the door, and that kind of helped when she heard the bell. But then she came to a support group one day, and she said the bells are ringing 24/7.
Hearing bells all the time.
Yes, I'm hearing bells all the time. Well, I went to her house, and I met with her mom and said, "Which door is she going out?" And she said either the front or the garage door. I said, "Can we stop using one of those doors?" She said, "Yeah, we could stop using, I guess, the front door." So what we did is we took the doorknob off totally and filled the hole up so it didn't look like a door anymore. And then we painted a chair rail from across the wall right across and the top of the door and the bottom to match.
Yeah.
Now Mom didn't know there was a door there. What we did on the garage door is we disabled the handle, kept the handle there but disabled it, and put a handle up at the top that Mom couldn't reach. So Mom would try to open the garage door, try to open it, and she couldn't get it open, and she would have her favorite chair there with some of her knitting stuff, and Mom would end up just sitting in the chair and doing something different.
Yeah.
But some people are not as easy to handle as that. So what do you see, and what precautions can we take, and what can we do to keep our loved ones safe?
There's a couple things that I've seen as far as responding out for calls for service. It's not uncommon for law enforcement to get a call for a welfare check or a missing person, especially in our county where our demographics show a senior population. So how do you best safeguard your loved ones? The answer is preparation. Just like when we talk about a lot of the times, having the paperwork in place that gives loved ones the ability to help their loved ones, such as power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, but then also having a plan for physical safety and physical security for your loved one. There's county programs such as our Safety Net program throughout Pinellas County. Largo has an actual Safety Net program where we will loan out to loved ones in our jurisdiction. We can give caregivers a Safety Net bracelet. It's a tracking bracelet that it's really an interesting concept.
Okay.
You hear about phones and GPS, right?
Right.
So that'll give you a general location of where that individual or where that phone is, right?
Right.
However, Safety Net emits a radio frequency. Okay, so it's in the 216 bandwidth. It's very pinpoint specific. There's a reason why we still use these old radios, right? It's because it transmits through a lot of different like shrubbery, buildings, etc. So the radio frequency transmitted through the Safety Net bracelet allows us to locate somebody pinpoint.
Wow.
You literally find this bracelet in the middle of a coffee cup, right? It's that pinpoint. Specifically where they're at. If they've wandered off into bushes, into shrubs, unfortunately, sometimes there's a proclivity to go towards water. We were able to locate them pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
it's a great resource. It's great technology that we actually are able to loan out through grant funding to local caregivers here in Largo. But there is a countywide program as well where you can contact local sheriff's office and get on to the county program. And also Safety Net, it's a national program. So even if you're outside of Florida, if you're in other states, inquire about Safety Net and other wandering prevention programs.
Yeah. And then we have this great thing we had talked about before. This is a scent kit. So your loved one takes a shower and you take this gauze pad and wipe it under their arms and you put it in this jar and seal it tight. And if your loved one wanders, a dog can actually smell the scent off the swab and be able to find your loved one. I think that's so fabulous, especially if you live in a rural area.
Yeah. Where they have scent tracking dogs. A lot of agencies and jurisdictions will use a scent tracking dog, and they use the scent tracking kits just like that. Absolutely. Alzheimer's Association has their Safe Return program. So there's a bunch of different options out there. I mean, it goes back to this, Linda. Just preparation, having that plan in place is absolutely paramount.
And know when if your loved one does wander, when they leave your home, they're probably going to go in the direction of their dominant hand. So if they're left, they're going to go left. If they're right, they're going to go right.
And look for water too. That's also a big draw for folks as they go towards water a lot of times.
And talk to your neighbors.
Yes.
Talk to your neighbors. If your neighbors know that mom maybe has an issue, well then they'll keep a better eye out if they see her out walking around.
I'll see your neighbors and I'll raise you a police department. So talk to your local law enforcement jurisdiction, because what they can do is for their what they call a CAD, computer aided dispatch, or their system that they use, They can put a flag or alert on your residence, that there's an individual, whether it be Alzheimer's, dementia, TBI, whatever it may be. They can flag it so that way responding officers will know that there's an individual there that may require special
More
communication
attention.
techniques.
Right.
Exactly. So that way it adjusts the approach when they're coming out to the call for service. Also, especially for our Silver Alert for the state of Florida, if the individual has that diagnosis where they're going to be, missing and endangered, that allows us to start activating some safety protocols early on. And it's all about that good communication and early facilitation that's going to make it a smooth transition to get them home safe.
Yeah, that Silver Alert. I see it all the time when you're driving. You see.
Yeah.
But it works.
It does. And when individuals go missing in a vehicle, a lot of times they're found out of state. Some people we've seen where they make it all the way to Georgia or outside of Florida. So
They just drive till they run out of gas.
they drive till they run out of gas, or they stop somewhere and
They don't know where they are.
They don't know where they're at, so they just stay in the vehicle. And somebody calls it in as a suspicious vehicle, and law enforcement stops out and come to find out it's the missing person from the Silver Alert.
Wow.
So it's things that you can do to put safeguards in place to keep your loved ones safe, secure in the home, and then also just like we talked about before, if it's getting to the point where it's no longer safe for them to be driving, having that conversation. It's some of these topics are not easy to talk about with family, but it's important that you do.
The result's a whole lot worse than not talking about it.
Exactly.
Then you really have to have some difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm. So having that early plan, putting the safeguards in place, and then good communication with local resources, law enforcement, and family, and neighbors. It's that holistic approach. We've talked about it before. It takes a village, and it truly does, to keep your loved ones safe and secure, especially when you're looking at wandering. Because if it happens, there's a high probability that's going to occur again and again.
Exactly. If it happens once, it's going to happen again.
It's not going to go away. So once you start seeing those indicators, address it. Don't. A lot of times you talk with caregivers, and there's a fear of I knew things were happening, but I didn't want to acknowledge it. I didn't want to accept that.
I didn't think they would leave the yard.
Didn't think they'd leave the yard. Didn't think they'd leave the house.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story, okay? We had a call for service. It was a missing person down in our southwest section. Loved one had her husband, very late stages of Alzheimer's. Left him in the car, went into the neighborhood marketplace, came back out. He was not in the car. Left him just a couple minutes, right? Yep. Come to find out, he had wandered just out of the vehicle, and we spent an entire shift looking for this gentleman, okay? So he wasn't on safety net, no real tracking programs. Come to find out, he was in the enclosure for the dumpster, probably 25 feet away from the vehicle. He'd wandered in, the
didn't know how to get out
behind him, couldn't figure out how to leave the enclosure.
Oh my God.
And he'd been there for hours.
Yeah.
So it's something where these programs are in place for a reason. If he'd been on safety net, would have done a 360 and boom, he'd be right there.
Right.
So it's one of those things where having those early conversations, what safeguards can we put in place? The problem's not going to go away, and that good communication is really what's going to keep your loved one safe. And that's what it comes down to.
Thanks, Joel. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You want to keep your loved one safe. Remember that. So tune in next week for another tip sponsored by Arden Courts. All they do is memory care. Please comment below if you like these videos and tell your friends. And have a delicious day.